Happy New Year and welcome to the 2020s. Today on RNT Fitness Radio, I'm joined by fellow RNT coach Ed Pimley, all the way out in Vancouver. In this episode, we talk about his current photoshoot prep, his evolving why over the years, strength training progressions, and the phases you'll go through in the RNT journey. So without further ado, let's dive in. So give us an update on your current transformation.
Oh, well, it's been quite a ride working with Ivan. It's been honestly fantastic. It's been one of the best coaching situations I think I've ever had. At the moment, we're around 32 pounds down when I got on the scales this morning. So for everyone in kilos, we're about 15 kilos, right? 16? 15, I think.
Yeah, about 32 pounds is about 14, 15 kilos, yeah.
Yeah, my math over here is terrible now.
That's all right.
But honestly, with this one, I think Ivan's given us probably one of the best nutrition plans I could have asked for. He's loaded me up on easily my favorite carbohydrate of potatoes.
Yeah.
And my training program, all my numbers each week just keep coming up. The one thing I've really noticed to be the biggest surprise is how long we've stayed on the same training plan, which is something that's a first. I've worked with a lot of coaches in the past, and we've really kind of changed the game every 4 to 6 weeks. And with this one, we're really grinding it out, and constantly seeing the progression. And I'm pretty sure I'm excited for the next couple of weeks to see where it kind of heads over Christmas and what the next kind of step is going to be for us as well.
So give us a breakdown on what you're doing for your training then. How's the training setup looking like?
So at the moment, we're on a 4-day split, 2 upper body days, 2 lower body days.
Yeah. 1
upper body day is focused a little bit more on my pushing movements. And then the second's obviously a little bit more on my back and my pulling motions. And then looking at our lower body day, it's fairly similar idea as well. More of an lower body push focus on day 2, and then more of a lower body pull focus on day 4.
So pretty simple setup and just focusing on progressive overload every week.
Yeah, it's a very, very basic setup. It's a very different switch for what I've done in the past, which has been nice. It's a lot more of a basic kind of breakdown with the movement patterns and things like that. So it's not overly complicated. We really kind of get it done, and then we're straight back out the door.
How have you found your movements progress or potentially stagnate as you've dropped so much weight?
I noticed my upper body push. So I've always had a bit of an issue with my bench press and things like that because I've got terrible shoulders.
Yeah.
So do a few little check-ins and a few little adjustments with Ivan. He actually got me to change a few positionings of my wrist, which really helped the strength go up fast. But I have noticed in the past, probably 3 or 4 weeks, it's kind of plateaued, but it's been staying where it is while my weight's been dropping quite consistently. Yeah. So I think with that incline bench press, it was something that we really kind of tweaked at the start, and that's helped. But the only one that I've really noticed constantly go up a lot has been my chin-ups.
Yeah.
I feel like as I get a little bit lighter, they get a lot easier. So I can definitely add more load to it each week, which is a great sign and really positive considering I was heavy before.
Yeah, it's always one of the most motivating lifts to do, chin-ups when you're getting lean, because it's one of the only ones that goes continuously up.
Oh yeah.
As you carry less body fat, you just easy to pull yourself up and start attaching more loads as well.
Yeah, it's such an ego lift for me as well. I used to suck at them. I was terrible. And now it's it feels so good to easily rep out a set of 10 chin-ups body weight and now be able to start adding load as well.
Yeah. So what stats are we on for your body composition? What stats are we playing with then? It's the 16th of December today. So this will probably go out in 2 weeks' time. But as of now, what are your starting body weight, current body weight, and predicted?
Well, it started at 214 pounds. So, man, I'm so bad with kilos now. It's the 90.
We got plenty of people doing pounds as well.
That's sweet. Yeah. So I was 214 at the start. And we had a really rapid drop at the start of the program where I dropped around 10 pounds in about 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
So it was a really quick change. And then it's been really steady from there. So now we're down to 183 today.
Yeah.
So, and that's pre-food and everything like that, obviously. I think Ivan wants to try to push us down to 180 in the next couple of weeks, which will be the lightest I've been, I think, in around 8 years, probably since moving to Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that's going to be some drop. But yeah, you've probably read the article. How heavy would you be when you're lean?
Yep.
And Ivan's probably showed you that because I know this is one of his favorite articles. So,
Oh yeah, he sent it to me a couple of times.
Manage your expectations on that.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever really noticed the scales do a big drop like this as well with any of my training and any of my like nutrition plans. Typically, I hit like that 200 to 202 and just kind of sit there.
So you said that Ivan set you up on one of your favorite nutrition plans you've ever been on. Talk us through the day in the life of Ed Pimley.
Oh yeah. So my nutrition, I've always been a volume eater. Like I like to see a lot of food on the plate. Otherwise, like I feel like I'm just depriving myself and I get really sad. So at the moment, he's got me loaded up in the mornings, very high protein. So we're looking at 3 whole eggs and 250 mils of egg whites.
Oh, nice. That's a lot of volume.
Yeah. The nice thing about that though is we're kind of alternated between making like omelets and frittatas and like just fried eggs when I'm on a bit of a rush. So it's been really good to see that volume of food there. And then our second meal, we're looking at a nice big chicken salad. So we've got 250 grams of chicken, 200 grams of sweet potato, 200 grams of vegetables. So again, it's like this big volume meal, which I'm really enjoying.
Yeah.
And then a shake, which is usually around post-workout, which is my banana peanut butter shake, which is delicious and a real treat in the middle of the day. And then we finish it up with the king. So we've got 200 grams of beef at the end of the day with 450 grams of white potato.
Oh, wow.
Which is just like this big mound of food, which is like at the end of the day, I can just sit there for like 30, 40 minutes, just slowly eating this meal. And it makes me the happiest person in the world.
Well, that's a decent amount of volume. I know Ivan's a massive volume guy. He himself consumes like kilos and kilos of food a day.
Yeah, it's been something as well. Like, has really switched the way that I've done a lot of my meal planning for my clients as well. Because it's kind of reminded me of carbohydrates like potatoes and sweet potatoes instead of always going down like the rice and quinoa sort of route.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's a big difference psychologically. I think when you see a lot of food in your plate, you don't feel like you're dieting.
Yeah. Like I haven't felt deprived or I haven't felt like I'm actually dieting this whole time.
Yeah. Wait till the next 10 pounds come off.
Yeah. We've started to like taper all the food down in like the last month. So right now we've removed the sweet potato from the chicken meal, the second meal. And it really hasn't felt any different at all.
Okay.
So it'll come, I'm sure.
Talk to us about the reason behind this latest body transformation for you.
Well, as most of my clients know, we're having our first child in less than probably a week if it comes on its due date. So we'll be a dad, and it's really kind of showing the kid that like it's setting an example for my child to be like, this is what can be done. This is healthy. This is a lifestyle. And kind of setting them up for success, especially living over in North America. There's a massive obesity epidemic with children. And personally, I think it does the buck starts with the parents and producing that role model for them. And that's something I want my kid to see as a good, healthy, happy family member, father that puts in the effort to look after what he's eating and teaches about nutrition and learns healthy aspects towards life, always training and all those sorts of things.
So it's very much you're motivated by the birth of your upcoming child.
Yeah.
And what about it? And going forwards, is that the why you're sort of you've got in your mind imprinted there?
Yeah, that's my number one why. Obviously, I'd like to be able to take my shirt off at the beach all the time and not feel like a whale. But definitely, like I think it's a big thing is about proving and showing and like setting my child up for success with everything and proving like hard work pays off.
How lean have you got in the past?
The leanest we got was I did a photo shoot with my old business partner in Canada around probably 3 or 4 years ago. And we did caliper testing then, and we were down to around 7% body fat on I think it was a 10 site we were doing at the time. So that was the leanest we got down to while we've been in Canada. Before that, obviously being younger and playing sports and being super active in Australia, we probably got down to around 5% without kind of tracking.
Yeah. So you're into the leanest ever for this one here?
That would be the plan, yeah. And then keep it there for an extended period of time.
Oh, nice. So you're in the perfect plans to do so.
Yeah, we're definitely moving forward right now. It's been really good.
Brilliant. So that's your current transformation journey you're on. Talk about why you got into training in the first place? So rewind the clock right back.
Oh, right back in the day. So it's a bit of an odd story compared to a lot of other trainers. Like as a kid, we were super active playing sports. My parents put us in both cricket and Australian rules football. Grew up from there and then started to surf when I got a little bit older and got into that side of things. And then really it was more accidental. My mum was kind of like, you need to get some sort of job, some kind of career set up. And I've always kind of been fairly active and loved exercise. So it felt like a sort of a natural progression to start moving towards getting into the fitness industry and like learning a little bit more about that. So I think I was in my early 20s when I got certified back in Australia. And from there, it was just immersed myself in it. Like I fell in love with everything about it. So I never really had that typical like teenage boy wanting to put on size to impress people. I was always fairly active with surfing and stuff like that. And that was my main source of training and exercise. And then learned a little bit more about the human body and learned more about like weight training and nutrition through my course. And then that's when I really fell in love with it all. So I was a bit of a late bloomer with it all.
So it was almost like a natural progression where you were just an active sports guy. And then you were thinking, well, how do I optimize my body and take it to that?
It was kind of like, how do I keep playing sport and like use it as a career? Because I wasn't really that good at any sport that I could take it professional. So I was more like what can I do on the back end of this and keep being super active? It keeps me fit and healthy and it's something that I enjoy. And how can I make money off it?
What year did you begin weight training then? Were you in your 20s before you lifted any weights or did you start?
I would have been around probably 17, 18 when I really sort of started, because it was like lifting weights with the guys that I played football with or the guys that I surfed with and stuff like that to make sure we were in prime physical condition.
Yeah.
And then it was more recreational than it was like serious, let's get jacked or anything like that. And then once we sort of did the course, that's when we kind of learned how can we optimize this a little bit more. And that's when it was like, let's change our physique and start changing these sorts of things and learn a little bit more around what goes into the body to get output from the body.
Mm-hmm. And that formed your natural progression into getting into the industry then? You took And what point did you decide, well, this is what I want to make my career out of?
That would have probably been just before I moved to Vancouver. I was definitely on the edge of leaving the industry because it's such a hard industry to get successful in and actually build a brand and build a business or build your lifestyle in it. And I was kind of tired. I was overworked. And then it was like, I'm going to move to Vancouver as something new. And then I met my actual business partner back in the day, Ben, who now works for Muscle Nerds. Fantastic guy. He was like my first real mentor in the industry. He kind of showed me the way about how to work with general populations and taught me a lot more about how to create results for your clients and less than trying to spin my wheels on the gym floor to keep my clients happy all the time. Right. Mm-hmm. So yeah, from there we kind of grew, and it was really that switch where it was like more about helping general populations than it was about what I do day to day.
Yeah. And what triggered the move to Vancouver then?
That move was more, I wanted a fresh break. I wanted somewhere new, and all my buddies were actually moving to London and they were like taking off there. And I didn't have the money to pay for a work visa there. It was only $150 to come to Canada.
Yeah.
So I applied, got it within a couple of days. And then it was like, all right, let's get a flight and get on over here. And I came here with $500 to my name, which lasted me about a week, and then was lucky enough to get a job and get set up. And then the rest is really history. It's just been like this big ball that's kept moving forward and forward and forward.
Wow. I mean, that's a big move. And why Vancouver? Did you have any ties here or?
One of my best mates back home was born and raised in Vancouver. So he was definitely like, it's a beautiful city and it's somewhere to live. But I'd never been. I always thought it was this snowy, white winter town, and all it does is rain. Like it just rains nonstop. But so I left thinking I was moving to this beautiful white Northland, and it's like, it rains all the time. It's cold. It's wet. It's a pretty quiet sort of city as well. So it was I did no research to find out what it was like at all. I just up and left in like a week of getting my work visa.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it was like the dumbest and smartest move I've ever done.
Yeah. And would you ever live anywhere else now? Or is this you set now?
We have our little moments of homesickness for that sunshine, but this is definitely home. I've got my family starting here. We've got Samantha, my partner's like amazing, and I couldn't ask for a better support network around me. And now to be able to build a family with her is going to be next level.
Amazing.
Yeah.
By the time this podcast drops, you'd hopefully already be a dad.
Well, fingers crossed.
the baby arrives late.
Yeah, fingers crossed it'll show up and everything will get rolling before Christmas time, but who knows?
Brilliant. Okay, so you mentioned that your biggest passion is training general population clients.
Yep.
If we're talking about the journey for us, an average person who's looking to stop spinning their wheels, break out of their rut, and finally kind of get into the shape of their life and then keep it, what's the necessary steps to begin with?
For most of my clients, it's always been that structure, like learning the basic things and not overcomplicating the process. Like getting an understanding behind caloric deficits and calories in versus calories out, and getting your training in and getting your steps in, and really paying attention to those little things at the start, right? I find a lot of the time we try to overcomplicate the beginning of someone's journey to either prove how smart we are or really kind of drive home exactly what we expect to happen at the end. And we forget about just get out there, get moving as much as you can with your daily steps, get your 3 to 4 workouts in each day, and be really structured with your nutrition and be prepared for everything that's going to happen during the week. And success will happen. And then building on top of that.
Yeah. So how would you go about building that initial structure? What do people need to consider when building their ideal structure for a future transformation?
I think the number one thing they need to focus on is just that preparation phase at the start, like what we call cleansing the palate, and being very strict with those structures, that foundation, and getting that routine. So when they get further into their transformation, they're actually already have these things set up and they're comfortable and confident with the program. Like they understand their nutrition, they've got their meal prep days set up. They know when they're going to get to the gym throughout the week and how they're going to kind of get their steps in. So when we build on top of those things, it's a smooth little process to be like, oh, I only have to add like an extra 10 minutes of walking into my day, or now I've just got to readjust this one little thing by next meal in, or something along those sorts of lines. So each step seems like less and less, as opposed to this big mountainous thing they've got to jump over.
Yes, it's laying that foundation with the 3 S's.
Yeah, it's definitely like building a house, right? You couldn't build an amazing house without focusing on that foundation first and what's actually going to be in the groundwork.
Yeah, exactly. Are you a big fan in yourself of like minimizing decision fatigue? Do you find that with yourself when you're dieting?
Oh, yeah.
Are you on autopilot?
I can't do it without being on autopilot. I've tried in the past of like tracking my own sort of macros and following my own made up meal plan, and I always end up kind of going off the radar a little bit and things like that. I'm a big fan of being like, this is what I'm going to eat at this time, at this time, at this time, and then just following that seven days a week.
Yeah. So once you've laid down the structure, where's your next sort of main struggle or obstacle that typically arises in a transformation journey?
I find that the one thing I've noticed is boredom sets in, and they get a little bit comfortable with everything. They might have 1 or 2 meals where it's kind of off track, and that's where they're kind of like, oh, I can do this a little bit more, or I'm getting a little bit bored with the same food day in and day out. And that's where I find like it's not vocalized as well. So like talking to your coach about these things is definitely something that can help build a more structured routine, right? You can learn a little bit more about what foods you can fit in and what you can adjust between, like, say, chicken or turkey or beef and salmon and things like that to make this meal plan a little bit more exciting. And then also learning ways to buffer meals out. So you have an understanding of, if I want to have a Saturday night out somewhere, I kind of know what I can and can't do throughout the day or throughout the week to make sure that doesn't blow out my weekly calories or things like that. So it's more that entertainment sort of factor as the program goes on.
Yeah, so learning, improving your nutritional education.
Yeah.
Bringing in more of the lifestyle solutions.
Yeah, I find most clients are really, really good with their training, and their steps become that sort of natural habit to park a little bit further away or take the stairs, little things like that. But I do find that just boredom through their meal plan and things like that is definitely where most people hit their first roadblock.
And what do you do then? Is it a case of, let's meals out aside, would you introduce more variety in the week? Or is it a case of just sticking with it? How do you approach when boredom kicks in, so you don't just go off plan?
I would probably start moving towards a little bit more variety in their protein sources. I find that's the easiest one to kind of make adjustments to, as opposed to like changing too much. Just giving them different options and being like, hey, if you're looking towards getting a little bit bored with beef, you do know that salmon's fairly similar to the macronutrient count. This would be the amount to have for that, to make sure your numbers are still set in stone, rock solid. And typically that gives the client a lot more like freedom and enjoyment. I find most people can stick to very similar sort of vegetables and carbohydrate sources throughout the process.
Yeah.
Making those small adjustments with those proteins really helps.
Got it. So keeping the base the same and then just going from like chicken to fish,
to
meat or tofu or whatever.
Like nice, easy sort of switch up. So they're not really going crazy or anything like that and losing drive or focus in the plan, and then really kind of having a little bit of enjoyment with their protein sources.
Yeah. Okay. So they're in the process phase now. They've encountered that, well, you've probably coined this the motivation dip and the dip. You know, they've started having a little bit out, a little bit of meals, a few meals untracked.
Yeah, they get a little bit more comfortable with everything.
Getting comfortable, complacent. What's next?
After that is when I want to get a little bit more aggressive. So once I find someone's had a little bit of that motivation dip or the precision dip, I like to bring them back around to their initial meal plan and then be like, all right, so for the next 2 weeks, we're going back to that cleansing the palate sort of phase, getting a little bit more aggressive and getting them to kind of structure their meal plans again, just as almost like that reminder switch. So to be like, oh, okay, so when I'm back on the plan, the results I get are so much better and so much faster that it's important for me to remember these little tick box sections and stuff like that.
So like a reset.
Yeah, it's just that, like, it's in a way kind of like that slap in the face to bring them back around, to be like, you're being a bit off track here, buddy. Step your game up. Put your big boy pants on. Let's go.
Yeah. And then what? Then just the push to the first checkpoint.
Yeah, the little grind phase right at the end. So this is where I like to take that cleansing the palate sort of meal plan and start to make adjustments to that. Start to play around with that caloric number a little bit more and kind of drill it home and get a little bit more aggressive with them just for that final push to the end.
Yeah. And then, okay, so we've reached the checkpoint. What's next after that? I mean, we've talked a lot about consolidation on this podcast, but what do you differentiate between those who consolidate well and those who don't?
I find the ones that consolidate really well, they're set up for their next investment phase, right? They're focused and they're ready. I find the ones that don't really consolidate that best kind of flicker back and forth between their weight loss and their consolidation phases again, and then back to their fat loss phase. Whereas I think talking with the client about that end result and that next sort of step can really lock that consolidation phase down for them and get them comfortable and confident. They've kind of learned a little bit more about variety in their nutrition plan and how they can kind of make this a little bit more lifestyle, just so when we get to that place, you can really tick those boxes and be like, let's start learning more about what works better for you.
Okay, so an important differentiator when you reach that checkpoint is to almost start mapping out who you want to be afterwards, where you want to go to, and how you want to improve, whether it's lifestyle solutions or muscle building. But you've got to do that straight away as soon as you hit the checkpoint, even earlier on. So then you actually value the consolidation phase for what it's worth.
Yeah. So I'm setting up most of my clients right now who are getting to that checkpoint. Let's start talking about 2020. Let's start talking about where they want to be in the next 6 months, as opposed to, hey, you're doing really well, let's keep grinding. Let's start looking towards that future and let's start talking about what are we going to take? What steps are we going to take to get you there? Like, how are we going to get through the consolidation phase to get you into the investment phase? Or how are we going to get you through the consolidation phase to get you back on track with your weight loss goal or your transformation goal, right? Like, get that focus to be more long-term as opposed to my first checkpoint's done. What next? We're already thinking about the next 6 months, the next 12 months, the next 24 months.
Yeah. Why do you think it's so difficult for people to get their head around thinking 6, 12, 24, 48 months?
I think it's mainly because they see that first checkpoint as their main goal. That's what they've been chasing for so long. It's been so hard to get to, and now they're finally there. They want to put their feet up and enjoy it a little bit instead of talking about this isn't the end game. this is just the start, right? Like that whole iceberg sort of thing where it's like there's so much more left under the water from what you can actually see, right? So I think we get too caught on what we can see instead of where can we go. So looking at that investment phase is like, this is the next step of the journey to lock down what you've got and build something even better that you didn't think you could actually achieve.
Amazing. What can people achieve in the investment phase? Because I find a common sticking point is you've consolidated well, but then there's a lack of potential buy-in on how you can actually improve beyond the obvious muscle building.
Yeah. So I think performance is the biggest thing to focus on with that. I think looking at strength in the gym, I think Kevin had a fantastic podcast a few weeks ago about it, about getting those numbers down and being like, where can I push these certain movements? So what I like to look at is, let's talk with the client about what exercises do they feel either really weak in or do they really want to see some sort of increase in. It could be like your bench press or even like your chin-ups, especially for females. Chin-ups is a huge one. And then building that investment phase around achieving that performance goal, and then balancing their nutrition around achieving that goal as opposed to being so focused on their body composition again. Because we've already kind of ticked that box. We've hit that checkpoint. We've started that consolidation phase. Now let's start looking towards getting you super strong or start performing way better inside the gym and things like that, and start to build that lifestyle as well.
What are some of your best tips for women looking to get their first chin up?
Frequency. Like get in there and do it. Like try and then what do they have to do?
Yeah. Say they're lean enough. Haven't got the strength to do it. What would you get them doing?
Their first phase is getting them comfortable with the actual hold position at the top for me. Like I want to make sure that they're strong and comfortable to be at the top of that bar with their chin and they understand the body positioning for that first step. From there, we'll start to get used to that negative phase, slowly controlling down. When I'm doing that negative phase, I always like to superset that with a quick set of lat pull down, just so they can get used to getting that scapular retraction and elbows pulling down towards the ground and things like that, as opposed to constantly just getting comfortable with the negative. And then I'll almost take them completely away from chin-ups for a phase and focus a lot more again on their lat pull down and just really focus on loading that back up. And then we start that process again and bring them back into pretty much being able to do hopefully one full pull up in that 12 weeks.
Yeah, awesome. I'm a big fan of the flexed hands. You know, when you rest, not rest, it's not rest, but when you're flexing at the top and just holding that positioning, that makes a big difference. And then with negatives, so long as you do the negative in a equally controlled fashion and don't just kind of drop down halfway and then hold the last.
I did a course a while ago where they actually did a big focus on it, and they were saying that if you can get a 10-second negative and then superset it with a 10-second lat pull down, it'll actually help the client get so confident how their elbows should move and how their scapular traction should be, that it should progress them to doing their pull-ups a lot faster and a lot more smoother. They just get that movement pattern down a lot quicker.
So 10 seconds on the negative, superset with 10-second pull down. How heavy is the pull down?
It's very light. So it's like usually 1 or 2 plates, and it's really focusing on the positioning of the elbow towards the ground and pulling that shoulder blade down into the back pockets and really kind of keeping that chest up tall.
So the pull down you're doing is the positive motion.
Yeah, it's 10 seconds on that pull down section, just so they can really feel that, because they find a lot of the time as females and males do their pull-ups, they round their shoulders right at the end motion, as opposed to pulling the chest up and pulling the elbows towards the ground.
Oh, interesting. Okay, got it. And then have you got any markers with the flexed hands?
I like to go for 10 seconds at the start and then progress for 2 to 5 seconds each session, depending. And then I think it was the Charles Poliquin one where he said that a 30-second negative phase should equal 1 full pull-up or 2 full pull-ups.
I've found in my experience, 30-second flexed hands when you're at the top is pretty much worth 1 chin-up.
Yeah.
That's one. I'm not sure on the negative thing, but I think it's roughly around that 30-second mark. So either 3 reps of 10 seconds or 2 reps of 15 done really well.
Yeah, I remember. So it was definitely
one set of 30 seconds actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the rule of thumb.
Yeah.
But that's typically where I want to go.
Most of my experience with getting women their first chin up, so long as they're lean enough, those sorts of progressive markers are almost exactly spot on.
Yeah, it's been something that I've used a lot as well in the past, and it's been like that note for most of my clientele that's where you want to get 30 seconds, and also holding a flex tank for more than 30 seconds is just horrible.
Yeah, exactly. What are some of your favorite strength training protocols for men and female alike in heavy?
I definitely love starting a lot of my clients out on like a 5x5, just because it's very easy to progress and it gets them really excited about strength and seeing those numbers go up week by week. I did a program not so long ago with a coach in Australia whose was very powerlifting focused. And the first 4 weeks was all about getting used to the weight going up. So we did descending reps week by week. So we started at 8, and then by the 4th week, we were at 5. And then we went into a 5x5 protocol, and then we went into a wave load protocol, which was really fun. I also really enjoy the wave loading for females. I find that's a definite protocol that really kind of fires them up and gets them going.
Can you explain what a wave loading protocol is? So
wave loading is where we decrease the reps while increasing the weight with every set that we do. So we start with, say, a 5-3-1. So we'll do 5 reps for our first set, take our rest break, and then do 3 reps for our second set, and then a single for our third rep. And then we'll go back around to repeat that wave. But our 5 rep will start at the 3 rep weight and then continue going up from there.
So you're being very submaximal on your first wave and then just sort of building up each time.
Yeah, so we're really looking at that 6th set or that final set to be the one where we really kind of hit that PR as the nervous system kind of ramps up and things get moving really well.
Got it. And would you use that across maybe 1 key lift per session, or is that?
I've done it both ways. I find 1 key lift per session is typically a lot better. I find that mentally the focus kind of dips a little bit with the 2 key lifts, but I think it all comes down to time and the amount of time someone can get into the gym.
Yeah.
So if I've got a client that can do 5 days a week, then sure, 1 key lift a session's great. If I've got a client that can only do 2 or 3, then let's look more towards the 2 key lifts per session.
Yeah. You've got a strong performance background. At what point did you make the switch between performance and strength and more towards body composition?
I feel like they came hand in hand, really. I think once I had my idea of athletic development and stuff like that locked away, it was very much nutrition was the next step, which is where my pretty much my love of transformations and love of like body composition came to play. It was more about how do I fuel my body for optimal performance, and that really comes hand in hand with eating well and training well and things like that. So it was more about, I kind of fell into that one as well a little bit more by thinking more about my nutrition as performance. And then with that, in a way, weight loss always comes with it, right?
Yeah.
If you're eating better, your body will just typically do what you want it to do.
Yeah. And then, and now you don't, your focus is entirely on body composition. And where do you feel like your sense of purpose and your why as a coach comes down to? Because you said you grew up always essentially being in shape. Where's your why driving from as a coach, not in your own journey?
It's really from helping people and seeing people achieve something they didn't think they could. So I find a lot of clientele come after trying 5 or 6 different attempts at losing weight or achieving their goal. And then to have it all kind of come together with you is the most rewarding feeling in the world. And having someone be like, this is why I started. You actually helped me achieve something I didn't know I could. And it's more a sense of purpose about helping people. My why is about helping people understand and learn the process and kind of get their results that way, as opposed to like having that past of being out of shape and then this is what I had to go through and things like that.
Yeah. It's come from a lot of education then.
Yeah, it's a lot of learning, and I've been really lucky for the people that I've worked with as they've kind of guided me a lot into this part of my life and career and stuff like that. And especially working with you guys, like knowing that Nathan's always there if I need anything, or Ben's always there if I've got some issues, and his program design and his knowledge behind that is next level. So knowing that I can touch base with him and I'll learn something from a quick text message is the most powerful thing, is I could ask for in a job.
Amazing. What's your transition been like as an RNT coach? Because you followed us all the way from the beginning. Talk to the journey of transitioning into a coaching role and how you found it. I mean, you're now 4 months in. Get some more insights from that.
It's been a whole different journey than what I thought it would be. I was at the start when you guys first started, and I remember listening to the podcast back in the day and all those sorts of things. I was always like, I don't know whether I could do the online coach thing. I thought I would miss the face-to-face aspect and the rapport with my clients that way. And I was like, I don't know how I can actually build that online and things like that. So when we started a few months ago, I was still very like, I think I could do this. And I had to learn a lot of stuff. And there was like a whole new learning curve that I'd never stepped foot in, especially when it comes to communication with my clients. It was like this big roadblock for me and I couldn't mentally get over it. And then having my meetings once a week with Nathan, he's been really helpful of like teaching me how to communicate over email to get my point across, which is something that I've only really did face to face, and like using the way people's expressions and the way they talk to you, and now learning how to read those expressions through word is it's a very different sort of process. So it's been this huge learning curve that I never expected it would be. And it's so exciting day by day to check my emails and have something new a new challenge that's like, I've got to read into this email a little bit more to get it and things like that. It's been really exciting.
Yeah. What have you learned about communication that people listening from any industry can take on board?
There's always something underneath. So it's like the little things someone gives you are a big thing to them. So like if a client gives you a tiny little piece of information about them, it's super important for them that you know that. Yeah. So picking up those little key points has been something that's been a huge learning curve, I think, for me, and something that I could take away and could be used in any aspect of my life at all.
Yeah, understanding perceived value.
I've got one client told me about her son finishing year 7 or 8, I think it was, and just knowing that and being like, how's your son enjoying school holidays? An entire different aspect side of it.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said for knowing when you're communicating, and this goes outside of just coaching, but understanding what the other person values and being able to connect with that.
Yeah, definitely. Like the whole learning about the person is something that I think we could all do a lot more, and like asking their why and what are you doing? How's your day going? Really can switch someone's whole day around as well.
Yeah. And the difference between doing it online and in person is so big because there's no body language to read.
Yeah. Like I don't get that facial expression or even the way the words come out. Like you can't tell if they're really excited about something because it's just written down. Whereas if someone speaks it to you, you can tell because their voice changes a little bit or their body language kind of changes a little bit. So that's been a huge adjustment for me, and it's been a really good learning curve. It's actually really helped me offline as well, like picking up cues when I go out and like if coffee at the coffee shop and then they look like they're having a little bit of a down day and just being like, how's your day going? It really kind of switches them on and like changes their whole like day, really.
Yeah, something you said, just asking people how they are.
Yeah.
And being genuine about it makes so much difference.
Yeah, especially like I've noticed a lot of the time, if you've got a client who's kind of struggling a little bit online, just that a little email on like a Thursday afternoon or a Friday that's like, hey, how are you doing? Have a good weekend, can really kind of change the tables for them, like picks their game back up, right?
Yeah. If you've got a client listening to this, any of our clients or anyone who's using coaching in any facility, what would you deem as a good check-in for them to allow you to do your job in the best way possible?
I think the best check-ins come when my clients give me a little bit of information about themselves and about their life, so we can build a bit of a conversation around that. And it also gives me insight as to how they're handling their nutrition as well as their training. Like if one of my clients comes to me at the start of their email and they're like, oh, we're having a bit of a day over here and things like that, there's a chance their nutrition or their training might be a bit of a sacrifice for that. So how can I take that little bit of information into their journey and make sure that I make a few little adjustments to make that little struggle a lot smoother for them? And then giving me a solid amount of detail on how they're feeling behind their food and their training is a big one. I think that everyone can get very robotic and be like, yep, my nutrition's fine, everything's good, so on and so on. And then in 3 weeks, they're like, I can't do this anymore. Whereas like 2 weeks ago, they could have quite simply been like, hey, I'm kind of struggling a little bit with my food. I've run down. Is there anything we can do to adjust that? And we can make changes there. And also kind of giving that background information of how their family and friends are handling it too, I think is a big one. And understanding that like wives and girlfriends and boyfriends and partners are all very much a part of your journey as well. So making sure that they're feeling involved and they feel like you're putting in the effort for them as well is a huge one.
Yeah. Talk about the social support and the importance of it.
I think it's definitely like one of the biggest support networks that they'll have if they've got a good group of people around them that'll actually spend the time to talk to them about their journey and get an understanding behind it. They'll be way more successful at the end result, right? I'm super lucky with my wife, Samantha, because she is very healthy, into working out. So she actually pushes me when I start to struggle a little bit and gives me that little kick in the pants. A few weeks ago, I had my little motivational dip and I was like, I'm tired, I'm grumpy, I'm hungry all the time. And she literally sat me down and was like, it's time to put your big boy pants on because this is going to be a fun ride till the end. So it's time to step up, get back in the game and get it going. And I think the social aspect behind that was, I think, the strongest thing to get me back on track. Your friends and family can help you with this process, but they can also kind of slow you down a little bit if they're not 100% helpful, right? So I think vocalizing what you want to achieve from it and where you want to go is going to be one of the biggest steps for them to understand and help, right?
Yeah, absolute game changers there. Make it easier for your journey no matter what field you're in. It's not just in transformation.
Yeah, I think having them understand why is going to be the biggest positive marker for your journey and help you get to your end result, right? If they understand why you're doing something, like why do you want to transform your body? Oh, because I want to be fit and healthy and I'm unhappy with the way I look. It's just fine. And they can get behind that and be like, we're here to help you and support you.
Yeah. Let's switch gears and talk about something very close to your heart. Your dog.
Oh, big Helen, eh? God, it warms me straight away.
Tell us about your dog and why he's so special, or why she's so special to you.
She's my number one. Like,
yeah,
I love Samantha. Don't get me wrong. Helen, she's my ride or die. Just don't tell Sam that. But we picked her up for probably, she's 2.5 now. So we got her summer 2017, and Samantha was very much against getting a big dog. She's a 120-pound English Mastiff. So she's just she's a big, gentle giant. Like you wouldn't even know. But we picked her up. Sam was against it, but I took her out to this place to pick it up. And there was about there. We were definitely not leaving there without one of those dogs, with the way Samantha was like playing with these puppies all the time. So we picked her up, brought her back home, and she is, for me to get my steps in and my cardio, she is my number one support network. So she helps me a lot get those steps in and get outside, especially with the weather here. I'm sure you guys have it the same in London where it's constantly raining.
Yeah.
Wet, it's cold. Like you just don't want to go outside some days. And lucky for me, she's always ready to go for a walk, always ready to go for a play, and always down for a cuddle puddle when we need it.
Is she going to be jealous when the new baby arrives?
Oh, she probably will be. She's a jealous little pup, that's for sure. But we've got a few little tools. We've been walking an empty pram with her. So we've been pushing our pram around outside while we walk her, so she gets used to being next to the pram and comfortable with it. And we've also been told to bring home one of the swaddles before we bring the baby back, so the smell of the baby's in the house and she can be used to it. But one thing, she's now sleeping next to the crib. The empty crib is where she sleeps now, right next door. So it's like she's being a little bit more protective. And she's also gotten a lot more comfortable cuddling into Sam than she ever has before.
Oh,
yeah, it's pretty amazing to watch like this little transition. But she's probably going to be a little bit jealous once the little one arrives.
Yeah. Can you pick her up?
Yeah, it's definitely, I got to set my knees and it's more of a deadlift position and then carry her around.
Brilliant. So what's in store for Ed in 2020 outside of obviously the imminent arrival?
Oh, just to start off with, just being the best dad and the best support for Samantha that I can be.
Yeah.
And then build this RNT relationship as much as I can and make something amazing in the next 12 months and then see where we go from there.
Amazing. Any parting words?
Guys, make sure it's fun. Everything you do, make sure it's fun.
Love it. Thanks for coming on, Ed.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you so much for being here today on this episode of RNT Fitness Radio. I'd love for you to do a quick little favor for us. Please head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating, leave a comment, and share it with your family and friends. If you're interested in learning more about how to transform your body and positively change your life, go to www.rntfitness.com and explore all our free content on offer. Thank you.